Okay, following the last video on making the exhaust, I seem to have done it, but I used, instead of using pie cuts, which I was originally going to do, the welding was so bad that I ended up using mandrel bends. They were cut exactly halfway and then spliced in the middle. I cut this out without a tube cutter. There's a couple of videos on YouTube, one from the fabrication series about how to notch tubes. That fitted really well. So I managed to get that done. I've put it up nice and high because ideally I want to get a sump extension which will have a screw-in oil filter which is level with the bottom of the block, so this exhaust is clearing that and it will give me some more oil. I know BMW know what they're doing, they spent millions on R&D, but this engine for 1000 cc's has only got 2.5 litres of oil. I know it's only got 2 pistons, but they're great big things and there's a lot of heat. And a lot of heat brings me on to the next bit, which is why I've got exhaust wrap. I broke down last week. The ignition started excuse me, fluctuating. The rev counter sort of flicked around a bit and then she died. I'd just done about 88 miles, mostly on motorways, dual carriageways and stuff, and it was a hot day and I was queuing up coming off the M25 onto the A20, and then I got a little way down the A20 and that was it. It turns out that the heat from this pipe heated up that cover, which in turn melted the little grommet on the bean can. It joins the condenser wire to the points wire. There's some pictures on Instagram. It just melted it and it ran down the inside of the bean can. There was no short in the wire. I still had continuity in the wire, and it wasn't earthed because it was still wrapped in molten plastic, but there's no way it was going to fire. So I've now wrapped it in this heat fiberglass. It's bloody awful stuff, but I can go for a ride now, come back and put my hand on the timing cover. It just keeps so much heat off it. I've also put the leg shields on it, not for aesthetics or anything like that, but purely because by all accounts, because they're angled, they deflect air down onto the fins, onto the barrels, heads and stuff, so try that. I'm also just mocking up. I've got an oil pump, and what I'm going to do is mount an oil cooler on this brace here, or maybe even on the sidecar tub. I'll show you on this spare gearbox. I'm going to take a fitting off of that, an AN6 fitting with an M14 thread to the inlet side of the fuel pump, the oil pump, and then I've just had this cover off. Inside around here there's bags of space, I mean loads and loads of room. There's no gears, there's a gear at the top but nothing down there, so I'm either going to put an AN fitting in the top of the gearbox or in the side, so once it's gone through the oil cooler it'll go back into the top of the gearbox or the side. I'll still have the vented dipstick. Because there's no oil pump in there, it's just gears splashing about. It doesn't actually build up pressure as such, but I'm still keeping the vented dipstick. See that little hole at the bottom there? It just, so if it should get pressurized for any reason, it will just vent to atmosphere. And so I don't have to drill too many holes. I'm just going to take oil out, oil in. I might also, there's enough flat space here and enough space around here to have a temperature gauge, because by all accounts the biggest killer of any engine, especially an air-cooled one pulling this amount of weight, is temperature. Temperature is just evil. So, and that's far too shiny. Look at that. I'm gonna have to paint that black or something. It's horrible. But it I had a can of it's quite high off the ground. It's about 18 inches off the ground, and I put a pipe on the inlet of gearbox oil, and it drew it straight up. There's no problem. And the bottom of the gearbox, I can't tell with this, it's because I'm using my phone. It's just, where is it? Where are you? There's a nut there. It's just in there. So there's not a great deal of lift. And then once it's in the pump, pushing it up to there, it's not a great deal of, what will it be, 6 inches, if that. And then round the old cooler back into the top of the gearbox. Got my little sight glass for the petrol tank, so I've done away with the I've done away with the fuel tap that goes in there. It was far too close to the starter motor cover. So now I've got a sight glass, and also start making you feel sick now. Bear with. Oh God. Little sight glass, because I'll have no reserve without the fuel tap. But at night, whee! Look at that! I have to put some some sunglasses on. Eric, he loves it. Look at that, beautiful. Oh, I don't know what it does there. A bit odd. Yeah, so that was my little breakdown, but slowly overcoming little problems. Rerouted the throttle cables, so now I can put these. That's why I didn't put these on originally, because the throttle cables came down, and when you turn the steering, that they wouldn't go past the leg guards. So that's the heating bit sorted, or the giving off of the heat. I still want to get an oil cooler with an oil filter for the engine. The oil cooler for the engine I can either mount on there in direct airflow, or on the frame down tube, because on BMWs they fit up there, but this whacking great big mudguard, see, that keeps a lot of the cooling off of the engine before this heat wrap was on there. So I mean, it's good, it keeps all the muck off it and all the road dirt and stuff, rain, but there's no air getting to that. So that'd be good once I've got the oil cooler on there. Oil cooler on the back for the gearbox. He's always got his legs open. Dirty boy. The cat. Say hello. Hello. He's a good boy. Yeah, so that's about it. Once I've got the, I think I can take the back wheel out, take the diff off, take the prop shaft off, take the donut off, kickstart this lever, speedo drive, and just take the back of the gearbox off. And then drill it, and then I'll be able to clean it out, because it's nice, and that far side of the gearbox is quite open. There's no all the gears are on the end of, there's a stubby bit there where there's a shaft, there's another shaft in there, so all the gears are sort of this side of the gearbox. Reverse. So yeah, the other side of the engine's painted. I re-torqued it down yesterday, balanced the carbs, reset the valve tappet clearances before I did the carbs, and it's running noticeably nicer. That's about it. Any comments, leave them below. Thank you very much. See you later. Goodbye.